as Donald Trump is being pushed closer and closer to having to, if not acknowledge reality, at least flee from reality and from the White House, we now turn to the various elements of his base of support to see how are they processing their fantasies sort of being pulled down one after the other. Some are trying to be their version of honest about it. So take a look at this. This is Laura Ingraham from last night.
You see it there. And as unpleasant and disappointing as these past 3 weeks have been to so many of us, as much as we wish things were different, this is where things stand tonight. Now, legal challenges continue in a number of states. Serious questions about vote counting, poll watcher access are outstanding. But unless the legal situation changes in a dramatic and frankly an unlikely manner, Joe Biden will be inaugurated on January 20th. Now, to say this does not mean I don't think that this election was rife with problems and potential fraud. And to say this does not constitute being a sellout to the conservative populist movement that I've been fighting for, I don't know, 25 years. And it does not mean that I disagree at all with the president's right and obligation to pursue all legitimate legal challenges to this outcome. To say this constitutes living in reality. And if I offered you a false reality, if I told you that there was an excellent, phenomenal chance that the Supreme Court was going to step in and deliver a victory to President Trump, I'd be lying to you. Now, you've known me for a long time now, and you know me long enough to know that I will not lie to you or simply tell you what you want to hear.
I had to keep that last part in because that's the funniest thing a conservative has said in literally years. I cannot lie to you. Laura Ingraham. Remember when Laura Ingraham, like 8 days ago, had that shadowy figure with the voice modulator that was gonna prove all the fraud? But no,
how does she not have any like self-respect? The fact that she allowed that to happen on her show. Anyway, keep going.
Well, and by the way, like others in media saw that and thought, I gotta get me some of that. Rush Limbaugh yesterday was saying, like they had this big press conference and they said they were gonna give us stuff. They should have at least had a hacker, and you could put a screen up in front of him if you wanna save his identity, and he'd say, I hacked this guy and I hacked that guy and I can prove fraud. That was a monologue from Rush Limbaugh saying, no, we're just gonna have effectively hand puppets obscured by shadow to vaguely prove all of our fantasies are true. Now there, she is acknowledging that Donald Trump isn't gonna be president, even though she holds out hope that the Supreme Court will deliver a win for him, which she knows damn well means the people don't decide, the Supreme Court decides if that were to come to pass. But the part I wanna briefly focus on there is that half of that statement was, hey everybody, keep watching, keep watching. I'm not a traitor. I've supported the conservative populist movement, which doesn't exist. It's just conservatism. It doesn't mean I'm a traitor. I'm not a traitor at all. Keep watching. There was definitely some fear of strike back there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's terrified of the audience that she enabled with lunacy. She's worried that they're gonna turn on her for acknowledging what the reality is. And that's why, even though in the short term, it's the most frustrating thing and it feels like we're losing and no one respects or cares about the truth anymore. Everyone just wants to hear what they want to hear. I mean, let me just be honest. There's a component of that on the left as well, right? Totally. Where if you acknowledge reality and you don't give certain audience members exactly what they want to hear, they'll revolt against you, they're angry, they're gonna go watch the Jimmy Dore show, have at it, please go enjoy, right? But it's a bigger contingent on the right, and it's because they've been enabled by so many people like Laura Ingraham. And when I say enabled, I mean, basically persuaded to completely disregard reality and believe what you want to believe alternative facts, believe whatever makes you comfortable in your own little bubble, right? While completely ignoring what the facts on the ground are. So I love that she's so scared of her own audience going against her because she has no choice. She has to acknowledge what the reality of the situation is. Biden won, he's president-elect. There was not widespread voter fraud.
Yeah.
Whoever was on her show, that shadowy figure who allegedly experienced voter fraud firsthand, that was a lie. That was a lie. They've never provided evidence. Every single court case that the Trump campaign brought to, various battleground states have been dismissed because of a lack of evidence. So this is the situation, and people got to deal with it. Sorry.
Yeah, well, and look, she's wise to be concerned, because not only is OAN and Newsmax and other people who have a webcam and a graphics package they purchase for $5 online, they're going to try to get those people, and maybe even some people inside of Fox News might try to show that they're more loyal. Now, Tucker Carlson, a guy who had criticized Sidney Powell right at the right moment because she was about to be ejected like a day after. This is someone that obviously people, I would say, spend 50% of each day tripping over themselves to give him credit that he doesn't deserve. He spent last night, while she was acknowledging reality, doing a monologue about how the 2020 election was not fair. No honest person would claim that it was fair. Because Tucker Carlson is a person that Andrew Lawrence, in a follow-up tweet, very rightly identified, is a guy that loves to say nobody could disagree with the points that he's making as a way to prove that the points are accurate. It doesn't actually work that way. But he believes that if you say that while looking at the camera with a really blank expression, that it makes you seem reasonable. So he's saying, no, the entire thing was rigged. He might be willing to go along with it, like he'll cover Biden when he becomes president, but this entire thing was stolen. That is the only reasonable position that you can hold. So he didn't have the shadowy figure, and he criticized Sidney Powell. But at the end of the day, that's all frosting. The cake is telling millions of conservatives that election was rigged. Any election we lose is rigged. You don't have to respect any of this and keep watching me, because I'm gonna continue to tell you that.
Look, I actually agree with Tucker Carlson. The election was not fair. And it wasn't fair that prior to the election, a Trump loyalist, Louis DeJoy, who was very conveniently named as a postmaster general, tried to dismantle the post office during an election year where people were going to rely heavily on mail-in ballots. It wasn't fair that the Trump campaign did everything and anything to spread disinformation about what the reality is in regard to mail-in ballots, voter fraud. I mean, the disinformation was endless. So I agree, it wasn't fair. There were all sorts of unfair things that happened leading up to election day. And despite all of these efforts to suppress voters, Biden still ended up winning.
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean, they tried real hard to prevent people from showing up to vote, from turning in their mail-in ballots. And then after the fact, the Trump campaign did everything and anything possible to cancel, throw out perfectly valid and legally cast ballots.
Yeah.
Biden ended up winning anyway.
And getting over 80 million votes for the first time in American presidential history. Totally. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.